Hello, everybody, and welcome to my live broadcast this late night. I think this is the first late night broadcast I'm doing in a very long time, and I welcome you all to the channel. I did one earlier on today, and that was when baby was asleep, and I promised that I was going to do another one come this night, and so I've come back here. I had to put him to sleep after eating, and I was afraid that it might rain. And unfortunately, as you can hear, it's drizzling. But what I've done is that I'm charging my audio assistance equipment. That's the earphones, the what do you call it? The microphone and earpiece and the receiving, whatever it's called. And I hope that's going to be of assistance. So how are you wherever you are? If you're watching, please let me know where you're watching from. Tell me, just give me a bit. I think what you can tell me is the country you're watching from and what time it is. It's 11:01 right now, 11:01 p.m. So in an hour, it's going to be midnight. And like I had said earlier, I preferred that I don't make it too late because tomorrow again, I don't want to have to compromise how much time I have with the baby. So if I stay too late again, that will mean that I'll be sleepy, very sleepy again during the day. Yet I have house chores to do and also to look after the baby. So welcome to the show. For those of you who are new here, my name is Wandia or my name is Josephine. I go by either of those depending on what part of my life people met me at one point. The people around me just knew me as Wandia, and later on, as I grew older and traveled and went to different places, the people I met knew me as Josephine. So I welcome you to my vlog. My channel is about just my life. So you can call it a lifestyle channel. It's just about my life, my daily life, how I live it, how I go on with it, what I do, where I travel, times with my family. Although because of many concerns, I've decided to limit how much of my family I expose because people also want their privacy. And I've learned that not everybody who's watching you on the screen has good intentions. So unless it's very necessary, I've decided I'll show just bits of my family. I welcome you, viewer. Thank you very much for joining. So, what's new? I wanted to talk today about actually when I went to bed, I just got thinking about parenting. I have grown up children. Welcome again, for you who've joined, welcome very much to my vlog. And so I wanted to talk about parenting and especially parenting adult children. I myself have adult children. All my children are adults. The toddler I am with is my sister's daughter, and a lot of my friends now have adult children. And so we get talking, and also I have a lot of relatives, of course, my peers and those older than me, and a few, of course, who are younger. We have adult children, and parenting adult children is a task that needs a lot of prayer, that needs a lot of resilience, that needs a lot of hard work, and most of all, that needs a lot of support from a partner, from spouse, from relatives, from friends, from the community at large, even sometimes when it's necessary. And then it's very important if you can have a support group that gives you a lot of advice because it can get very heavy on your shoulders. And what made me think about that is the number of instances, even for myself, of course, when we have adult children, and not forgetting that we ourselves are, and are still, not let me not say have been, but also still are adults and are also people's children. And so sometimes, only sometimes, The way we treat and treated and behave or behaved with our parents is the same way that will be treated by our children, or they'll behave towards us. Just sometimes. But on the overall, for every parent, it is so imperative, it's so important. It's such a cause for pride, a cause for joy when your children listen to you, when they take your advice, when they're keen to grasp every bit of suggestion that you make for them, when you give them guidance, when you see them taking acting upon the guidance that you've given them. Because you know, as a parent, when you're advising your children, you're foreseeing 7 steps ahead. You've put them into a box and you're seeing outside the box. So when you're advising them so that they may prevent getting into situations and circumstances months and years to come. But of course, when you're young and older people are talking to you, you're just like, what do they know? And so it's a very, very painful thing when you listen to parents who have children who never listen to them at all, or who are so disobedient of them, or who are so disrespectful. And respect is so difficult to discuss, because respect looks like very many different things. Respect is not about feeding your parent with money. Respect is not about just building for your parent a good house. Respect is not making sure they are well clothed and well dressed and everything. No, 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 no. Respect is listening, is being present when you're called and even before you're called. Respect is asking for advice. Respect is doing without being told and behaving without being asked in the manner that you have been brought up by by that parent, is knowing without being told that you have gone wrong, and sometimes apologizing without having been cautioned, because you know very well that whether they knew or they did not, you have gone ahead and done something that they have been against for very long. And so a lot of parents right now are in a lot of despair because of children not listening. And when I talk about children here, I'm talking about adults in their 20s straight to their 60s. I mean, you're never too old to be hardened, so to speak. And it is so painful and pitiful. It's so painful and pitiful to have children who don't listen. In Kikamba, we call it mbamato, the ones who lack ears. And we have sayings, I think, in every African culture about the wisdom of listening to the elders, not just your parents, but to the elders. How beautiful it was when, in earlier years, your parent wasn't just only your parent, but everybody of your parents' age. But in this era where money is so easy to come by and lots of money, there are different categories of um, of adults, young and old, who do not listen to their parents for various reasons. The categories are: there are people who do not listen simply because they are caught up by vices of this world, irrespective of whether they have money or not. For them, the fun is beyond listening to advice. The friends come first, the fun comes first. There's another category who have come into money, serious money. I mean, in comparison with their parents are, well, they are so untouchable in the society they were brought up with, vis-a-vis who they have made of themselves. They have become so wealthy. They have become moneyed. I don't know whether I should call it wealthy, because wealth and quick riches are really not the same. And very sadly, a lot of people come into quick riches, which you can't really call wealth, because when these riches, again, due to lack of wisdom, all go at once, You can't really call that wealth. You can just call that having a lot of money. And so they just get rich quickly, and out of lack of wisdom and lack of guidance, then they lose all that money. And I know for a fact that it's very difficult to shepherd children who have a lot of money, whatever age they are at. There's a kind of arrogance that comes with money. Um, and actually, it's not that the arrogance is brought on by the money. These are these are people who, even before they had the money, always had a hint of arrogance and self-centeredness and uh, and uh, and a and a disrespect for respect, if I could say that. It's people who've shunned being told what to do for a very long time, but they just did not have the power to say so. And they've just, and as a parent, you'll always know the traits of a child. You don't need to be told, because you've seen this little person grow up into become this adult who now hides behind veneers of different things. And so when these people grow up and they fall into money, they are the people who will not say no to parents, but they will very indirectly just not act up. They'll just simply refuse to do things that are common courtesy of respect between a child and a parent, which is very sad. And so a lot of parents are in tears, a lot of parents are in a lot of sorrow because of what children are doing, failing to listen to them and failing to take their advice. And what hurts a parent, especially a parent who doesn't have a lot of wealth or a lot of money or a lot of power, is the knowledge and the foresight of knowing that this child of mine right now is taking preference to friends, to a lifestyle of money, to habits, vices that are self-harming. And what is going to happen is that immediately all this fades away. The only other spot they have to come back to is here where I am. And here where I am is so lacking in so many things. Because if they were listening to what I was telling them, they'd be investing in the here and now and here where I am, so that when that time comes and there's a fall, they have something, they have a fallback, a cushion, so to speak, a very soft cushion and a very big cushion. And they have very many options of investments, which, if they listened, they would start making right now, cushioning themselves for that day. And so it's so worrisome. And and this cuts across all people, people with a lot of money, people without money, people from very poor backgrounds, I mean very vulnerable families. You find they have adult children who are so heavily into drugs, who are so heavily into alcohol, who are so heavily into all sorts of worldly things that are taking them, diverting them from self development, from even bare self, um, what can I, self responsibility over their daily lives. And it's all because of following a culture that is very harmful. And it doesn't mean that it has to be a foreign culture, it could just be a culture in the hood. And there's no sorrow I see bigger. In fact, the sorrow that a parent has for a child who doesn't listen, believe it or not, is sometimes greater than the sorrow of another parent who has lost a child, because you are daily seeing this child putting themselves into pits, into traps that are so dangerous, and you can foresee what kind of a loss they're going to get, how it's going to impact them. Because you know the child so well, you can see how this is going to impact their life, how it's going to impact their friendships, how it's going to impact their society, how they are they are viewed in society, how it's going to impact their family well-being, whether it's with whether it's their relationship with their spouses or whatever it is. And it's so hurtful. especially when you've invested so much in the child. You have educated this child, you've brought up this child well, you've given this child a very good foundation. Uh, I mean, with all kinds of guidance, all kinds of foresightedness in ensuring that they are in good environments, and they are seeing examples, and you're showing them examples. This is what has happened to this person because of what they did to this. You've tried to expose them as much as possible. You have tried to ensure that they do not go through any phase where they are having a struggle, so that they may be best prepared for the time when they now start having life struggle as an adult, and then they flow in smoothly compared to their to their peers who might have had a walk of struggle throughout. And then when this child then turns back at you and fails to recognize all that and shuns it, and no, it's an attitude. So they don't need to talk back, but the way they behave, the way they act, the way they talk, the way they react to what you ask them to do in itself speaks. And that's I mean, it could, in this situation, um actions talk louder than words couldn't be truer, because the child then talks to you in actions and very directly tells you, I really don't care what you're telling me. I think I know better. I think your opinion doesn't matter. I think actually what you're telling me is coming in this year and going out the other year. You're really wasting your time. I'm really not bothered. And I'm going to do exactly what I want, whether or not you tell me not to, or you don't. And you can see the pain in the eyes of the parents when they talk about these children. They don't have to say that I'm so disappointed in this child. They don't have to say that I'm so sad about this child. They'll be talking about this child, and you'll feel the hurt that they are going through. And so I find it so pitiful. I find it so pitiful because there's so little you can do with adults. You cannot coerce them. I mean, especially with your children. You just pray for them and keep talking to them. And, my sister likes calling it tough love. And for me, I'm also a believer of that. You have to give them tough love. You just have to get as tough as possible with adults, especially if it's your child, because you'd rather hurt them than have the world hurt them. And when the world takes a go at them, they are going to swing a really tough blow at them. So, in as much as possible, for me, what I advise people is go tough. Go as tough as possible on your children. Be merciless. Completely have no mercy. And do not joke about it. Just get very, very serious about what your intentions are, about what you wish for them to be, and repeat it as constantly as possible. I keep on saying, the thing about men is that unless we name and shame, we are not going to have men change their behaviors. And this is a worldwide thing. I mean, with the Epstein files coming up, and with what a lot of world leaders, what we've seen with leaders of different nations, whether it's even in the entertainment industry, wherever you talk. And this is just the general outlook of what it is, men behaving badly the world over. And this is not to say that women do not um, misbehave or get into such heinous crimes, but on average, of course, the men do it more. And I keep on saying that unless you name and shame, it will not help to curb a lot of the atrocities that are happening. And so it's the same with our children. Unless you shame them, because I found that with human beings, if there's something that hurts an adult and that an adult hates the most, a responsible, sane, and sensible adult is to be shamed. And so, if this is the weapon that I'm going to use, I'm going to wield it. I'm going to weld it as publicly as possible. So, you must, for me, what I'd advise as a parent of adults to you as a fellow parent is that you must learn how not to hide what your children, the more you hide what your children are up to, the more you hide the mistakes your children are making, the more you hide the errors that you can foresee your children are about to make, the more you keep it secret to yourself, the more they are likely to do it. And the more people are going to be talking behind your back or sometimes in your face, and they'll be saying, look at what Josephine's child is doing. I mean, what kind of behavior is this? This. But make it public and talk to them publicly and tell them, I'm aware of this. And talk it to the people who matter the most to that child. And tell them, I had a discussion with your aunt so and so. I had a discussion with your uncle so and so. I had a discussion with so and so, my friend who knows you from childhood. And we are talking about this thing you're doing, and we think it is not right, or we think you should do it slightly differently, or we think that the way you've taken it, you should handle it from a different angle. And because that takes somebody aback, especially if it's something that they feel is so private. Unprivate it. Unprivate it. Because for what are you making it private if it's something bad? For what are you hiding it? I mean, why are you keeping it secret? For whom are you keeping it secret? So that it can fester into a wound? Is that a wound you're covering? So that it can fester into something that is uncontrollable? No, 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 no. And the more also adults know that there's a likelihood that what they're doing in the dark that is bad is going to be spoken about in public among people that they respect, the higher the chances are that they are going to stop doing it, or they are going to reduce the frequency of what they are doing, or they are going to think twice about what they are doing. And I keep on saying, and with all due respect to people of Caucasian uh, heritage and race and everything, that lack of close familial ties and respect of protocols among family that is so common among Asians, that is so common among South Americans, native South Americans, that is so common among, let's say, even Russians, that is so common among Chinese, that is so common among Africans. That that fear of the elders, fear of relatives, fear of community members, fear of religious leaders among us is what has kept sanity at such a higher level than among white people. than among white people. Because if you grow up not fearing anybody, if you grow up knowing that you can get to a certain level of wealth or a certain level of power, and there's nobody that you're going to be accountable to, you become a monster. You become very freely a monster on the loose. And so it is the same with us as human beings. And it's the same with some of these people that I'm talking about, whether they're children or whether they're mature adults like I am, getting into my 60s or 60s and above. When you reach a level of fearlessness where there's really nobody who can reproach you. I mean, you can very easily rubbish elder relatives or even community leaders, or you can rubbish any in-laws or your own in-laws, or you can rubbish your spouse, or like you literally have nobody that you fear. You have this fearsome attitude that you've developed, and ego and persona that everybody knows, that one, you can't get to a certain level with them. They'll tell you off, or they'll beat you, or they'll take you to the cops, or they'll, take this action or that action. When you get to that level of fearlessness, whoever you are, whatever position you are in, when on a wholesome, people know that you absolutely have no one person, single person that you fear, not a religious leader, not a community leader, not a relative who's an elder, not a, I mean, that among every bit of society, there is no one person that can make you shake in your boots. You become a monster. You become an uncontrollable monster. And first of all, you become a danger unto yourself. It might be perceived by many people that you're dangerous to society, to the community. But in my view, the biggest danger you are is to yourself, because you become uncontrollable and you become reckless with your uncontrollableness. I don't know how else to put that. And there's nothing as dangerous, in my view, for me as an adult to be fearless. It is a very great virtue to have fear. And that is why it is said that the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. And for some of these people, there's so much, what can I say? It's not, it's, of course, first of all, it's rebellion. It's rebellion to hierarchy, it's rebellion to leadership, it's rebellion to order, it's rebellion to discipline, but it's also rebellion to what? To the being that is God. Because when you are that fearless, then you really cannot be fearsome of something might happen to you, karma or whatever it is they talk about in religious books that will happen to people who are bad, because you're like, what? I mean, if you don't fear any human being, you are certainly not going to fear a being that is not being seen. And that's why I'm saying that people who then lack discipline to that extent are first and foremost a danger unto themselves, and they are to be pitied. Yes, they might think and feel they're fearless, and the reason why they're a danger unto themselves is that they'll keep on acting with impunity at different levels and getting away with it and getting away with it, because people get to a point, those the people surrounding them get to a point of noticing the fearlessness within them and sensing the danger. And it's like an evil spirit. It is an evil spirit. And so when you're a reckless when you're such a, because I'll call it reckless for lack of a better word, when you're such a reckless person, you'll think that you've gotten to untouchable bases, because now uh the only the only power that can shake you is probably government, that you can be imprisoned or you can, yeah, is probably only government. And so you start becoming reckless in small bits. It might be that relatives are very well mannered with ill mannered people. Let me put it like that, because what relatives do is they pull back. And remember, they are supposed to be your first line of support in case of danger. But when they see this fearlessness in a person, when they see this utter recklessness and lack of abandon with regard to order and to what, and to respect, they just pull back. And you see, when you're an adult and probably you're financially stable and probably you have options, having options is such a great benefit for people who have no respect for authority. So they'll pull back because since you have no respect for authority, they'll know that any continued interaction with you is going to get to a point where there's going to be friction. And so they slowly pull away from you, and they pull away from anybody that is close to you. And so a lot of words that you're going to hear from people who lack a lot of respect to their parents or caregivers or elders in society or relatives is that I don't care. I don't care. Are you in touch with this? No, I'm not in touch with them. Do you communicate? No, I don't communicate with them. Why? I really don't have business with them. There'll be a lot of negative answers regarding close friends. And if they are close friends, you'll find that close friends have very, very similar attitudes. They really don't care about their relatives, they really don't care about authority, and they live very freely. And in the freeness of their living is a lot of misbehavior, is a lot of lack of control, is a lot of secret desires and meeting of these desires. And you can be very sure that a lot of these desires that they meet according to their feelings and according to their wishes are evil, because again, they have no respect for authority. And so they will always find ways of finding of finding of finding finding ways that they can get their kicks secretly, because their kicks are stuff that is shunned upon by very many people in public. And they'll try to draw, and they'll not they'll try to, but they will always draw like-minded people, people who will be very, very reckless, very reckless, very easily reckless. And they'll be and they can get very adventuresome. They can get very adventuresome to dangerous levels, because I mean, who cares? They really don't care. And in their in their great adventure, in their great spirit of adventure, it will just be about them, because there's that selfishness. It will purely be about them, so that this person or persons will travel widely, will experience a lot of things, but they'll prefer to have that fun just them and the people close to them, the people who do not know their history and do not care about their history, and the people who are with them for just this short time. Because if you stay with them for any prolonged period, you're going to learn how much nastiness is in their lives. And even if you yourself are nasty, you'll get to a point where you might criticize that. And these are people who don't want to be criticized at all, because getting criticized is showing me that there's a sense, there's a there's a level of authority that I'm ignoring. And I don't want anybody reminding me that. And I don't want anybody telling me that. And so that's how people who have no respect for parents or their elders now get into becoming dangerous unto themselves, because they live a lie. They live a lie. They aspire for they'll aspire for a lot. They'll want to work very little for it. They'll want to get, but and you see, they don't have anybody to authoritatively tell them and instill upon them and insist upon them that the things that you want, you must work for them, because they don't have time to sit down and be told stuff. They don't want to have time to sit down. They don't have time to sit down and be advised. They just want to ask, is it possible to do this? Yes or no. If no, is there another way I can get it? If you want to sit down and start telling me, yes, now what you have to do is that this, and if you're told this, you must try and behave in a certain manner. They don't want to behave, period. They do not want to behave. And so something that starts as very little as lack of respect for authority within your family, just within your family, lack of respect for guidance and advice from the people who that love you the most, who are most understanding to you, your own family and close friends and relatives, now develops into worse and worse. And it does not matter how much money you have. Actually, the money just enables you to become a bigger monster, because it misleads you further, and you become a slave to your wealth, your money. And when you have money and you have no respect for authority, oh, there's no limit to how much um, let me stop before I go into words that can get YouTube kicking me off. But you get into a recklessness of the highest order. Oh, yes. And you just need to look around you. I don't need to give examples. You look around you, look at people who are known to be very reckless with their lives, and think about their attitude towards family and towards the elder the and towards elders among them, and leaders around them. What are their opinions? What are their views? If you if you investigate a bit further, you're going to find that when it comes to authority, any sort of authority, they are reluctant to have any association with it, or to follow it, or to listen to it. In fact, they scoff at people who have any fear of authority, who have any fear at all. Because I mean, it's a sign of weakness, and they really feel that it's a sign of strength to act fearless in the face of any form of authority. And what a pity it is. And that's why I like our African culture that encourages being, I mean, real harshness with children from an early age, to sort of straighten them. Yes, because we've seen that where parenting has involved being so soft with children, that from an early age children can make demands. And it doesn't go well. Children must learn to be told no, even when a yes was possible. Children must learn to lack. They must learn that it is possible to lack even when it is possible. The circumstances allow for you not to lack. And they must learn that sometimes authority will make a decision that seems to be the worst for what they feel is good. But in the long run, it's just good to listen to what you're being guided to do and what you're being told. And so I really pity people who have to daily deal with the issue of having children who don't listen to you, adult children who you can see are walking down the path of recklessness, are walking down a path that is going to take them into so much loss, loss of opportunity, loss of work, loss of property at a point. Because if it's children who are set to inherit property, you can foresee that it is just going to be put to waste. If it is and here, remember throughout that I'm talking about adults. If it is children who are supposed to fall into opportunity, and you know very well that they are totally aligned to fall into certain opportunities, you know that they will waste them, or they'll be kicked out of those opportunities because of the total disrespect, habit of disrespect that they have cultivated for a very long time. And as adults, that's why I'm calling it cultivate. I'm saying that it is cultivating it as a habit, because you get used to it. You slowly develop it over time and over a period. And a time back, there's not well, not very long, because it's a few months back, I spoke about the recklessness with which people have handled inheritances. And this came from having met somebody who we grew up with, and we were discussing people we lived with in the same estate over years, and how they fell into very good inheritances and how they've squandered that. And more this is coming out. And I think I mentioned it in yesterday's night vlog, that the lack of training about handling money in Kenya is one of the reasons why a lot of people are not able to handle wealth. But besides that too, is this factor that now I'm talking about, that cultivating a habit as an adult of shunning authority, shunning advice from elders, shunning uh, guidance from people who are authorities on certain topics. And sometimes it might be people who have nothing compared to you. You might have a privileged background, a privileged upbringing, a privileged lifestyle, but sometimes somebody who's on the street, who has not had any of that, might be able to, or who's a friend or who's an acquaintance, maybe is a shopkeeper, maybe is a vendor, maybe you always come across people in life who are not as well placed as you are to have had privileges that you have had and grown with. Sometimes listen to these people. Take your time to sit with them, make friends with them, and listen to what they have to talk about life. Because especially if you're living in the same neighborhoods and they've for a very long period they've lived among you but always been the lesser privileged, they'll usually have a lot of intel about where those of you who are more privileged are going wrong in the way you're handling your lives. I mean, I've found that where you had estates, uh, for example, like Kibra was next to Woodley, was next to Ngei, was next to Kilimani. And there are a lot of people that grew up in Kibra and and grew up under very vulnerable circumstances and were age mates, were peers of the same people who lived, let's say, in Gay and in Woodley and in Kilimani. And when these people these were peers, and now if you meet them, let's say they're 50-year-olds from the different communities, you find that those who lived in Kibra are by far much wealthier, wiser, happier in life than those who lived in Kilimani, their peers, those who lived in Woodley, their peers, and those who lived in Gay. And you ask yourself, how is it that those who were in the place that was most displaced, I mean, sorry, not displaced, that was most disfavored in all manner and circumstances are the ones gotten to be the wealthiest. In fact, some of them are at par with their peers who might have just fallen straight into inheritances. They grew up with privilege all their lives. They went to similar schools, probably similar colleges. And when it came to job opportunities, the ones that had the more privileged background upbringing got favors immediately. The ones in Kibra probably had to struggle. But now, when push comes to shove, it gets to a point where you've now left your parents' homes. The ones from Kibra are emerging winners. And you wonder, why is this? It's because of it's because of the attitude, the mental attitude of these people. You know, when you've grown up respecting authority, it's going to follow through wherever you go that you're going to respect authority. And it's just going to get broader and broader, and the level of respect among family is going to grow. No matter how wealthy you get, is going to be maintained at par, so that you'll still be respecting the aunts no matter how low they are, no matter the uncles, no matter, I mean, you're growing in wealth in leaps and bounds, and they are still in the shanties and everything. But when you meet them, it does not matter how much of a CEO you are, you're giving the same level of respect, as opposed to your peer who has grown up knowing that, even been encouraged by the parents themselves, that your authority is limited to us only. And any other parent out there trying to tell you something, don't give a hoot about that. So sometimes some of us parents contribute to the lack of respect that children grow up with into their adulthood, because you're busy telling your child and showing them that outside of this house, nobody else should order you around. In fact, to the level of even encouraging this child that anybody that is employed in this house is beneath you. You're the one to be giving orders. Your rank is that much higher than this person who's an adult. And so, you find that when some of these people who grow into these habits of disrespect, even at an early age, it was cultured into them to disrespect the driver, to disrespect the cook, to disrespect the house manager, to disrespect the teachers, especially if in any way possible they seemed to be lesser, either in terms of wealth or general outlook. If in any way somebody looked less advantaged than the family was, you are taught to disrespect them. So that when you go visiting places and you see relatives who look shabby, yeah, you're just told no. I mean, they have no authority to tell you anything. You can't, they can't even come. I mean, And some of the horror stories that we're used to, and I call them horror stories because what else am I going to call them? Some of the gross misbehavior that has been taught, ingrained into children in some homes, and I will not even say richer homes, because even less less privileged homes have that kind of have those kind of parents who teach children from an early age, who have taught children from an early age who you can respect and who you can not respect. And especially when that level of respect is tied to financial ability, oh yeah, then you know that you've cooked that child for real, because this grows up to be an adult who will always measure people by the level of their wealth, or the level of the of the direct implication of their wealth status. And no children can be fooled. I mean, who are people? People are mighty smart animals. So there are people who will always act and look rich, and they'll know that, and those ones will always get respect from such children. And as they grow older, they'll have these people as the preferred aunt, as the preferred uncle, as the preferred cousin. And these are the same people who now make such persons gullible later on in life. And so even as we decry the lack of respect among some of our children to us, the lack of well, I'll just call it lack of respect. I'll also call it the lack of wisdom, not lack of wisdom. I'm looking for a word to say, but when we do have children who do not listen to our advice, we weep for them so much. And it's so sad when you know very well that there's so little that you can do about it. And but I'd like to encourage parents, do not give up, keep giving tough love, and then keep speaking about it. Keep speaking about it, because I know that um, cor- correct, correcting behavior comes from also talking, discussion, dialogue. You can't keep quiet about something and then expect the person to change. If it is an adult, they must know continuously that your behavior is causing pain to us, is causing pain to me, and I'd like you to change it. You should not pause, you should not stop, you should never cease to tell your child what they're doing, what is wrong. And I know it's so us as parents, especially as mothers, to be like, I'm so tired. I'm so tired of telling them this. I don't know what I'm going to do about it. But just the same way we are told to pray without ceasing, in the same way, we should castigate and chastise without ceasing. Keep on telling the person, I don't like what you're doing about this. And be genuinely angry. And whatever it is, whatever you can do to show how much angry you are, do it. Do it. Be relentless in shaming them if possible. Mm? Discuss it with as many people as possible. You never know who it is among the people that you're talking with is going to help you with it. And I am totally not in favor of keeping secrets about wrong things that our children are doing. For what are you keeping it a secret? For what are you keeping it a secret? Try and involve their friends if it is possible. Try and involve your friends if it is possible. Try and involve community if it is possible. Try and involve authority if it has gotten to a level that is um, that is dangerous. Uh, if it is a vice that is related to criminal activities, yes, sometimes, yes, I know we have so much negative effects with the police and everything, but I have seen friends who've gone and talked to policemen and women, and gone to them and told them, I have this problem with my child and I need you to step in and help me. And these are trained personnel, Some of them will come to you and tell you, these are the steps I think we should be able to take. And so, like it would be very, very good if, for example, the person has become so notorious in the house and then they are forced to report to the chief's office or to the police station once a week, and just ensure that they are not up to any criminal activity, or they are not up to trying to harm any family member or something. But take action, take action. Just do not sit down and do nothing about it. For a long time, I used to wish that the military would open up to helping civilians deal with family members who are violent, because violence is the one thing which, again, because of police brutality, I'm afraid to advise anybody, if it's a case of violence, to just be, because the person might be harmed. But to the military, I know they have an efficiency that is nothing to joke about. I wish they would have sessions where people who are continuously um, being a danger to their families because of violence could be put into military camps for an entire month. I know drill training in the military is absolutely no joke. So that the person comes out of there in a month or 3 months. I mean, what is time when it's people's lives that are concerned? And then this person is put through a real heavy regimen of physical output of energy, so that they learn that there's something you can do besides using your fists on people. Those are just wishes that of course can't happen. But again, when it comes to sorting issues with people who are not listening in the home, you keep on thinking of different ideas to do. Uh, it's a very big problem we are having with adult children. It's a very, very big problem. Some of the things are so personal and are so hurtful that they just need special forums, not a talk like this. But you hear parents talking about children who continuously will fail to listen, and then they are continuously falling into the same problems. And when they are causing problems, it eventually boils down to financial problems upon the family, either financial loss or wasted opportunity, which is again amounts to financial loss. Or because lack of opportunity, of course, means the opportunity gained would have ultimately come down to counting of cents and shillings, either for the person or for the family. So it's just something that, for me, requires constant talking about, speaking about to the person, to other members of the family, to friends who are like family, to try and assist, to try and help, to try and pull out this person out of the trouble they're putting themselves in. But all I know is that fearlessness is a very big factor among people who are disrespectful to authority. Fearlessness more than anything else. It's not even rebelliousness, it's just fearlessness. The lack of fear is the beginning of foolishness. Have some fear. I'd urge you to be fearful of somebody, to have as many people as possible whom you fear to hear something bad about you. The more you do that, the more you are likely to stay in line, just because you want to keep your reputation in order. You want to to be seen as a virtuous person. You want to be seen as a person to be emulated by the younger people. It's not that you shouldn't make mistakes. I mean, we all do. But in as much as possible, it's good to try and stay within the lane of discipline in every level of society that you are in every aspect of community that you are in. be seen to have fear, a level of fear, a level of what, of caution, that good may come to you, that sometimes people may know that you're going to say, oh, I'm so sorry that I did this, that, oh my goodness, I regret that I did that. But when you have no regrets and when you have no apologies, yeah, you're dangerous to yourself. You're dangerous to yourself, and I pity you. So that was just what I wanted to talk about today. This is what I thought about. There are so many people I'm seeing in my life, in my neighborhood, in right now, because of I'm a vlogger, of course. In some of the channels I watch, um, in even in the news, and when you follow people to the detail, some of these persons that are causing problems over and over again in society, you find that that aspect of disrespect is very, very, very dangerous, and it comes from fearlessness. My observation has been that this is always the indication that I have spoken too much and I should learn to have a bottle of water next to me. But this late in the evening, not even coffee, because I don't want to be sleepless. But yes, I'm going to start talking when I have a bottle of water here. But a continuous hour of talking, yes, it gets me to me. It gets me to this. Thank you very much, my viewer. I appreciate you very, very well. And so I'm going to be closing this in about 4 minutes. I'm very grateful for those of you who will be watching this later on. What's your opinion? What do you think society can do different to steer into line and to steer into what, into respect? People who have this continuous habit of disrespecting parents, disrespecting elders, of not listening. Even you as an individual, what is your, I know, of course, one thing that I must say is that not all parents deserve respect, and not all parents deserve to be listened to. There are parents who don't make a lot of sense, and it's okay to disagree with parents. But disagreeing with a parent and disrespecting a parent are two different things, because they are boundaries that should never be crossed between a child and a parent. One is abusing, one is yeah, abuse should not get to that, and this goes both ways. The parent should not abuse the child, and the child should not abuse the parent. And again, remember, here I'm talking about adults. So as an adult, once you are an adult, I feel that your parent, no matter what kind of wrong you do, should not abuse you, and neither should you also be in a position to abuse. The second is fighting. At no point should an adult beat their parent, and at no point should a parent feel that they can beat their child because of what they have done. No, once you get into adulthood, that's a no. That's a complete no. Yeah. And then but this might be very controversial, but when it comes to access to homes, I think a lot of times the situations arise where the parent might chase the child out of the home, or but in my opinion, that's not right. You we both have as much right as possible to call our home a safe space and to live there and to have access to it at any time. I mean, your misbehavior should not be a reason to chase you out of the home. Every form of dialogue, every form of reconciliation should be sought to ensure that everybody has opportunity to stay in a home and to have every right of security in that home. But this is a subject, this is something worth discussing. But in my opinion, that's now another boundary that now becomes crossing of a boundary. At what point should a parent chase you out of the home? And at what point should if it is No, children, of course, will not chase parents out of the home. But when it comes to that, I strongly, strongly believe that there should be an amicable way by which everybody should be able to leave their home, even if forceful circumstances, but not physically throwing out a child out of the home. That's in my opinion. Again, this is just my personal opinion. That should not come to be. So I thank you all for having stayed on. For those of you who bypassed, I appreciate it very much. I'm very grateful. I thought that it would be good to also start doing night chats so that the people who are not awake in our waking hours can also have opportunity to get to see me when I'm talking live. And then my day chats can cater for those of us who are in this time zone when our daytime is at the same hour as mine is. And so from Nairobi, in sunny Ruai of magical Kenya, I say bye bye.